How to think like Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo from Narcos, Mexico. Now, when it comes to learning about some of the most successful criminals in the 20th century, it's actually quite interesting that Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo is a name that isn't as prominent as figures such as Al Capone or Pablo Escobar. But it's an absolute understatement to say that this man left a bit of a mark on the international drug trade. Felix Gallardo, also referred to as El Padrino, was one of Mexico's biggest drug traffickers for nearly 20 years. Now, just to clarify, in no way, shape or form am I glorifying or condoning the actions of this man. By the end of his span at the top, he was arrested and sentenced to 37 years in prison for multiple criminal charges, including drug trafficking and the murder of a DEA agent. So he isn't someone that I'd advise to look up to. But despite that, it would be absolutely ignorant and naive to think that we can't learn a few things from this man. At one point in time, his cartel was pulling in approximately $5 billion annually. Which leads us to the question of, how did Felix do it? How did a once former police officer go on to build one of the biggest drug cartels the world has ever seen? Well, one of the first principles that he used was the 23rd law of power. Concentrate your forces. Conserve your forces and energies by keeping them concentrated at their strongest point. You gain more by finding a rich mine and mining it deeper than by flitting from one shallow mine to another. Intensity defeats extensity every time. When looking for sources of power to elevate you, find that one key patron, the fat cow who will give you milk for a very long time. When it came to the drug trade in Mexico in the 1970s, there wasn't a lot of organisation. Each location in Mexico was divided into areas called plazas, and each plaza was run by its own boss. Back in the 70s, drug traffickers were mainly just a few lone wolves, and if they wanted to do business within a plaza, then they had to cough up and pay the plaza boss. Each plaza was its own world with its own rules, mainly run by the toughest guy in the area, not necessarily the most clever or strategic. Each plaza rivaled the other, rising and falling as quick as swatting flies, resulting in a non-stop cycle of murder and destruction. What Felix realised was that this division between the plazas limited the opportunity to scale. With all the division, there would be no way to take the drug trade to the next level. There was no power in being divided, but there would be much more in concentrating their power together and uniting. If he was able to unite all the cartels and gangs together and create a structure and organisation around it, this would completely transform the Mexican drug trade, turning them from postmen to a postal company, a strong structured company that was a force to be reckoned with. With a unified concentrated force, Felix was then able to minimise the battles between each plaza and set, control and regulate the price and the market of the trade. This idea is very similar to the organisation OPEC, which is the organisation of the petroleum exporting countries. The whole goal of OPEC is to bring stability and control to the oil market in order to secure an efficient, economic and regular supply of petroleum to consumers, a steady income to producers, and a fair return on capital for those investing in the petroleum industry. Now, if we take petroleum out and replace it with marijuana, this is exactly what Felix did. Power itself always exists in concentrated forms. A heavier arrow will typically penetrate better. Now, this isn't to say that there isn't a time for spreading out and dividing up your forces, but often more so than not, it is much wiser to concentrate your forces at the enemy's weakest spot. Felix's dream was to create one of the most powerful cartels in the world, and by unifying everyone around that one goal, it secured himself in a very strong position of power. Because of the unification, the streamlining, the control and regulation of the drug trade to something similar of a Fortune 500 company, it allowed a lot more people to be a lot more susceptible to his bribes and completely happy to turn a blind eye. That being the police, politicians and even the US government. And even when it came to the most determined of people who wanted to take him down, it would take a lot of time, patience and hard work, as his such concentrated power was very hard to penetrate and break. This highlights not just the importance of how strong and powerful a force is, but also how organised a force is. Your goal as a strategist should be working out how to combine these two elements together, and is what ultimately will bring you great power, whether that's in your organisation or with your psychological ways of thinking. This is why there is such a vast difference between the strategies taken by governments and agencies fighting normal petty crime in comparison to organised crime. Single-mindedness of purpose and total concentration on one or two goals will typically deliver better and deeper results than trying to achieve 10 different shallow goals. What you want to do is concentrate on a single goal, a single task, and beat it into submission. Gather all your forces and strength and aim it towards your goal. The more people that can help you, especially people more powerful than you, the better. Now ultimately, no matter how powerful you get, there is always going to be someone that wants to try and take you down, which is what leads to the second principle that Felix used, which is the 11th law of power. Learn to keep people dependent on you. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied on, the more freedom you have. Make people depend on you for their happiness and prosperity, and you can have nothing to fear. Never teach them enough so that they can do without you. The ultimate power in life is the ability to get people to do as you wish. And when you can do this without having to force or hurt people, when they willingly grant what you desire, then your power is untouchable. And the best way to achieve this position is to create a relationship of dependence. This is one of the biggest reasons as to why Felix was essentially untouchable for a long period of his life. That being because so many people relied upon him. I mean, he had governors, politicians, police officers, police chiefs, all relying on him to pay for their fancy lifestyles. But this is what gave Felix leverage, as once that person comes to rely upon you, you can then negotiate and control your offer on your terms. A classic example of this was working with the Colombian cartels. The Medellin and Cali cartel of Colombia were making an absolute killing, transporting their products to the States through Miami. But once US forces clamped down on this strategy, it was no longer viable. That was until Felix realized that the only other route for them to transport their product was through Mexico, where Felix practically owned the whole infrastructure of the market. This is what allowed him to negotiate and control the offer on his terms with the cartels and provide them safe passage for their product, in exchange negotiating a heavy 50% cut of all the cocaine transported. Combining this with his already excellent distribution network and strong relationships with the police and government, this is essentially what granted Felix such enormous power and protection. Once such relationship is established, it is you that has the upper hand and the leverage to make people do as you wish. Even though on the surface, it appears that Felix was relying on the politicians and heads of agencies for support, in reality, it was them that were relying on him for handouts and bribes. And that's why Felix was always so protected, as the big politicians and police chiefs relied on him so much. This position of interdependence, getting other people to rely on you rather than being isolated alone in a forest, grants you so much more power than pure independence alone, and strategically puts you into a position of much higher authority. People may not like you, they may even despise your guts, but if they need you because you possess something that cannot be replaced, then they have no other choice but to do business with you and listen to what you have to say. Now, of course, you need to be careful with this and not go overboard, as if you play against too much people, then there is nothing stopping from all them uniting against you and taking you down. But even still, they would have to think twice about making such a move against you. So the point that I'm making is to make others dependent on you. And the best way to obtain this powerful position of interdependence is by possessing something that people want that cannot be replaced. This can be something physical or something attributable just to you. This can be a skill, a product, an organization, or a talent that you have that is very hard to come by. The ultimate goal is to essentially become a person of value. A person who can offer something that is very rare and is something that will make it very hard for you to be replaced. Machiavelli once said, "A wise prince will think of ways to keep his citizens of every sort and under every circumstance dependent on the state and on him, and they will then be always trustworthy." And that's how to think like Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo from Narcos, Mexico. By understanding the principle of concentrating your forces and organization at your enemy's weakest point and making others dependent on you by becoming a person of such value that it is very hard to replace you. And this is what is going to grant you much more power in your life and in the world of business. Now, like I said before, in no way, shape or form am I glorifying Felix or condoning his actions. As you know, he eventually ended up crashing down from his position of power and was charged with a life sentence. And if you want me to cover an analysis for his downfall, then make sure you comment that down below. It will actually be quite interesting. But like with all character breakdowns that I do on this channel, I objectively eliminate the negative and try to focus on what powerful strategies and principles that we can learn from these characters in order to be able to think that bit more strategically. And if you are interested in learning more about these strategic strategies and principles that I cover, then make sure you click the link in the description to sign up for our newsletter. I always get asked to go much deeper into more principles and strategies, but there is only so much that I can talk about in one YouTube video. That's why for nearly a whole year now, I've been non-stop working on something that is going to absolutely blow you away. I mean, you think you learn a lot from the character breakdowns that I do now? Well, think again, because when I launch what I've been working on for you, I can tell you it is going to put you on that journey to becoming that master strategic thinker that you've always wanted to be. So if you are interested in more of these strategic concepts and powerful mindsets that I talk about, then make sure you click the link in the description to sign up for our newsletter, as I will be announcing something very special for you much sooner than you think. And if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button and leave a comment below on what your thoughts and feelings are about Felix. Comment some of your favourite lessons and quotes from him, and let me know if you would like to see that downfall video of him, or let me know what character breakdown would you like to see next. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the channel, and to all our loyal subscribers, we are glad you are here. We do some of the best character breakdowns on the whole of YouTube, and we aim to produce at least one high quality animated video per week. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any golden knowledge. I'll see you soon.